Reborn in the USA, an Englishman's love letter to his chosen home. It comes out today. You know the Men in Blazers show. If you know soccer, it's available on Peacock. So I don't know how much of what Whittingham was saying you heard there, Roger, but he is proclaiming it one of the most delightful days in the history of your grand sport yesterday.
Because it was the day before my book came out. That's really very, very generous of him. And I would probably agree, in all sincerity, the football yesterday was, we've all been stuck in quarantine. I would venture to bet that no one has emerged from quarantine drunker than Euro 2020. It is absolutely, it's like a Christopher Nolan movie. It's totally and utterly bonkers. No one can quite understand what the heck's going on, but you can't take your eyes off it for a second. It's delirious. It's like the Golden State Warriors collapsing from 3-1 up over and over and over and over again. It's magic.
And so what were the most interesting parts of what it is that you saw yesterday before we get into your book, your love of country, your patriotism, your enthusiasm?
Well, I'm an American now. You know that, Dan. I'm love America more than Kenny Powers loves America. But the tiny little bit of Englishness that's still in me, it does enjoy watching France crap the bed. Gotta say, that never gets tiring. So that was pretty unbelievable watching them fight back from 1-0 down, go to 3-1. The game is over. We march on, not so fast, friendo. It was magnificent watching them crap the bed. Never get tired of that. And ultimately, well, number one, the baseline is this tournament was cancelled last year. A pandemic ravaged Europe and we could not watch it. We have had to wait a year. So just to see fans back in the stadia, the fact that this tournament can happen at all, humanly, is joyous, remarkable, delirious. We will never take this for granted again. These footballers are exhausted, like many athletes. We're watching the NBA, head towards the finals with these teams barely holding on. Limbs are popping all over the place. So it is with football. These athletes have worked through a COVID pandemic schedule, which has shattered them to the bone. But you watch them pull on their national team jerseys. You watch these guys, how much it means to them, how much it meant to the Swiss yesterday, not a celebrity packed team, to defang a glorious French team. You watch, Croatia, a tiny country, population the size of Oklahoma. Look at a sports superpower, Spain. They didn't win, but they fancied their chances and they came bloody close. And of course, the Denmark thing, Christian Eriksen, we almost lost him with the world watching in a dark, dark day and watching that team recover. They were zombies when they played their first game. They lost their second game. And then tenaciously, they've willed themselves back to watch them now become a team of destiny. It's the greatest human theater.
Is there any country the world loves watching lose more than France? And why is the answer no?
Such a great question, such a deep and remarkable question, and a reminder, one of the joys of international football. I love American football. The Chicago Bears saved my life many, many times. Hard to believe because they're such a crap team. But my God, when they went on that Super Bowl run, that saved my life and gave me life. But when these international teams take the field in European competition or World Cup competition, their nation's histories take the field alongside them. And that's what makes it so deep, because let's just say Germany are playing England this afternoon. There's quite a lot of history there, Dan. And that's really what we're reveling into. The France thing is hilarious. But again, it's like the French history, the emergence from small France to a very arrogant, swaggering, petty France, to a France who believes it can win both on the field and dominate in Europe. The mirror, ultimately, football, soccer, international football is just a reflection of the societies and the culture that surrounds it, and that's what makes it so rich and deep and remarkable.
You mentioned Eriksen, and we were talking, I was interested in your thoughts on this when it came out. What is the broadcast's responsibility in that situation? People were made so squeamish by much of it, nothing more so than the combination of thinking that a player was dying on the field combined with the video of his wife being scared. So what is the broadcast's responsibility there?
You're asking me, a bald buffoon, a very deep and remarkable question. I'll say, first of all, ESPN do not call the shots on that international feed. This is not an ESPN question. They get what they're given by a match director in Europe. And look, this was such an unprecedented reality. If you don't remember the story, American listeners, this is the creative heart of the Danish team. He's been on our show, Christian Eriksen, a sweet and wonderful, just a force for good, a prime athlete. In the first half of the first game, away from the ball, just collapsed on the field and was down. And we now know, because the Swiss doctor said we lost him on that field. He had a heart challenge, which he was ended, and the defibrillators revived him. And thank God he's doing fantastically now. Normally the norm is there's a player down, you zoom in, you see it's normally a bad leg or better than I do. Messi in football, it's nothing. It's a magic recovery is coming. And I think the depth of, what we did with Christian Eriksen, we together, the world glimpse, we go to sports. Dan, your show is built on this. Your enterprise is built on this as a release to get away from the darkness of life, to lift our spirits for joy, for connectivity, for moments of wonder. And instead, with the world watching, we glimpse the darkness. We glimpse the void. We glimpse the reminder we are all going to die, which we are. But that's not what we go to sports for. And I imagine now that will be a lesson learned, because there's been no precedent, really. Once or twice, there's been situations like a football's equivalent of a Len Bias situation. But I think the lingering, you do witness now when a player's down, bloody hell. Even when it's just a little tweet, they snap away bloody quickly, because we have glimpsed the worst now, and they will not do that again.
Roger, I want to ask you, now we'll get to your book and how you feel a renewed sense of Americanness, but I want to briefly harp on your English mentality as an England supporter. Perhaps once upon a time, there's still a little bit of it left. You look at that side of the bracket. Germany is really the only obstacle in the way of you and a Wembley final for the English national team at a Euros. Okay, if you look at just sort of before the tournament, these are the two favorites on this side. Do you think that they can finally overcome the massive disappointments that have been England at a major tournament and actually live up to their potential, win a home game against Germany on their way?
Chris Whittingham is Lucy holding the ball for me to run at and kick. I want to be completely clear before I give you a serious answer to that. Listeners, I support America. I am more American than Kenny Powers. Kid Rock. I'm about as American as Bruce Springsteen. I would never deem to be more anything than the boss. So when England play America, oh my God, I am rooting for one team and one team only. And when Alex Morgan sips tea after scoring against the English in the Women's World Cup, I am like, that is a great moment in American history, up there with the Battle of Yorktown and when we sent Piers Morgan back. But so I just want to make that absolutely clear. But you're asking me about England, and above my head, and I don't know if I can't swear on this show.
Yes, let it fly.
Okay. I'm going to test this now. I'm so excited. There's a book which documents the history of English football since 1966, when we won the World Cup. And it's called 40 Years of Shite. It's a serious history of and so there's just a cycle. I've said this before. The English national team are essentially the New York Knicks. It's always, this is going to be our year. We've learned our lessons. We've got the chemistry. We got the big names. Let's do this. And, there's this hilarious song they sing. It's coming home. It's coming home. Football's coming home. It's coming home. And they say it almost ironically at this point. We know it's not coming home. You're making me, Lucy, you're making me run at that football because you've seen it's the easy side of the bracket. This is the weakest German team of all time. But my whole life can be measured out in Germany, facing England, and feeling only dismal, haunting, disastrous pain. They do us every bloody time. And by the way, even if we do beat them this afternoon, please don't let it go to penalties, because my heart will not be able to bear it. Even if we do beat them, and the nation of England will turn the hype up to 11, we'll crap the bed somewhere down the road. That's how life ends. Jessica, hello.
When are you going to curse?
When I said Piers Morgan, is that not good enough for
you? You say you're not an England fan, but you just used the royal we.
Yes,
like
you did. Yes, we caught you. We caught you, Bennett. You're trying to play. Yeah, this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to sell Reborn in the USA, an Englishman's love letter to his chosen home. It comes out today, and you want the Americans to love you, and you're traitorous to your we, your beloved we.
Yeah, that's bullshit, is the honest truth. We do every night after the Euros, we do this Spotify green room where we break down and I find the hard, like I catch myself when I watch an England game. You know, it's good for England doing well is good for business. Like the Premier League, we know the stars, Americans like to watch the English national team. So we do talk a lot about England, and it annoys the hell out of me. And I constantly, it's become a running joke. I'm constantly being like, yeah, you know, we're a bit crap at the back. Oh, not we, they. I'm trying to be objective, like a big journalist. It is the last litany of that youth. And I mean, to talk about the book for a second, in that context, I consider myself, like, my identity is 100% American. And the book documents that. My kids, I have 4 kids. And it shocked me the first time one of them wrote a book report at school, and they have to do that kind of fake book biography on the back when he was like 5 or 6, Samson, my oldest son. And he wrote, Samson Bennett is a British American. And I looked at it, I was gobsmacked. I was like, what are you doing? I didn't say that, but I was like, oh my God. I didn't encourage that identity. That's not who I am. I don't see myself as that. I have stood in a courtroom in Lower Manhattan with 162 other human beings who have, you know, my book is about surviving Liverpool in the 1980s, a magnificent city that was on its knees at the time, economically, culturally, politically. It was a dark place of unemployment, a heroin epidemic. It was like Train Spotting with English accents. And I survived by just inhaling everything American that I could, from like Miami Vice, Heart to Heart, The Love Boat, the Beastie Boys, Run DMC, the Chicago Bears when the NFL started to be broadcast on English television. Oh my God, I could talk about that moment for a long time. But like America seemed to be this place where life could be lived with things I didn't know. It could be joy, optimism, hope, aspiration. And when you stood in a courtroom with these human beings, 162 from 47 countries, and you say the oath of allegiance, and you look left and right, and you see people who have survived civil wars, they have crawled through deserts, they have gone on devastating journeys to be in this place, driven by an idea of America, which is courageous and joyous and deeply, deeply meaningful. I consider myself utterly American. That's all I want. But it is hilarious. To answer your question, the we thing, it annoys the hell out of me, and I can't stop doing it.
Well, as a former Brit, I know you were happy to see France lose yesterday, but I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about Karim Benzema, because he's been gone from the French team for 6 years. I wonder if you could talk to the audience about what is going on with him.
Well, your audience, essentially, they know Benzema as the man who allegedly blackmailed a teammate with sex vids and so got kicked out of the team. And he's an elite striker. You know, it's a bit like having an elite running back. You know, running backs used to be, when I watched football as a kid in the 80s, just the prime player on the team, watching Walter Payton run behind always a terrible offensive line, but just, my God, an incredible human being. Everybody wanted to be a running back. Now, of course, everybody wants to be a wide receiver. And the game of football has changed, and everybody wants to be a wing back. They all want to run up and down the flank and dazzle. And that's what the great players who can dictate play and enforce their idea on the game. And so the striker, there's actually fewer elite strikers in the game than ever. England have a remarkable human being, Harry Kane, who's under a lot of scrutiny now. Belgium have just an incredible human being, a truly noble poet, warrior, Romelu Lukaku. And France recalled this gentleman after 6 years in exile for this alleged sex vid bribery thing. He is an elite bloody striker. They are out, so we shouldn't be talking about them anymore. But my God, even in defeat, he scored. Well, first of all, the Swiss team were 1-0 up. They had a penalty, and he iced the kicker by with real, what you call in football, shithousery. He just iced the kicker. They missed the penalty, and they went up the other end. Benzema scored a goal, which was like watching Baryshnikov, that first touch. It's on my Twitter. Watch it, even if you don't like football. My God, it made the world's nipples tingle. and then scored 90 seconds later. So within 2 minutes 19, he completely changed the game. Sex vids. That is essentially the Benzema story, and now he's gone. I will answer all football questions. I do want to talk about my book because ultimately Independence Day is coming. I love America. I wrote a love letter to America, and it really feels like this nation could do with one right now.
Guillermo, put it on the poll, please. Did it make the world's nipples tingle? And also, can you elaborate on shithousery?
Shithousery.
Sorry, in America. See, that's like me saying we for England when I say shithousery. Should I be saying Stugotz shithousery?
I just never have heard the expression before.
Shithousery. It's the dark arts. It's just the intangibles. It's just like Dennis Rodman was the master of shithousery. If you've watched the oeuvre of D. Rodman, then my friend, without knowing it, you have been exposed to a ton of shithousery.
Reborn in the USA, an Englishman's love letter to his chosen home. It comes out today, and you're welcome to talk about the book, but I feel like you already have very gloriously talked about the book.
I feel like I haven't. I'd like to read the whole book. It's a couple. I like to read it from start to finish. As a book on tape.
Do you have? Anyway, you have it near you. Let's go ahead. Go ahead and read us a passage that you particularly like. Go ahead. I would like to do that with you.
I will. What I'd say is the Chicago Bears Super Bowl team. I'm in England. Football in the 80s was just violent. You went there because you liked the taste of your own blood in your mouth. I'd go with my dad and you'd routinely step over broken bodies, be like, oh, help me, help me. People like, oh, he's just been beaten up. No biggie. And so it was a hooligan culture. And then the NFL started to be broadcast in the 1980s, 1982 on English television on a cult channel that was rarely watched. It was an hour-long show where they crunched. In those days, it was just 14 games a week. They crunched all the highlights from the previous week's games into an hour, mostly to montages of Bonnie Tyler holding out for a hero. It would be like amazing. It would be like, Danny White, let's go. And you'd be like, oh my God. And you'd watch like Bum Phillips. You'd be like, oh my God, there's a man called Bum and his team are crap. And instead of like doing what you should do, the New Orleans Saints, the fans should have risen up and beat the crap out of the Atlanta Falcons fans. That's what you do when your team loses. But no, the New Orleans Saints were like, we're the New Orleans Saints. Let's put bags over our heads. Let's laugh. Let's drink light beer. Let's eat sausage-based products and just have a great time anyway. And I watched that and I was like blown away. Just like, my God, you can have fun at sports games. That is insane. And then the Chicago Bears, Walter Payton, frittering away that man's career. And then right at the end of his career, just building a fearsome, swaggering I think I was the only English person that owned a copy of the Super Bowl Shuffle. I had its special order sent out to me. And what I want to tell you is watching that as a kid, 14-year-old Rog in Liverpool, watching, my favorite New England Patriots quarterback of all time, Tony Eason, watching him get pulverized in the Super Bowl and meeting William Perry shortly afterwards, who whispered in my ear, have big dreams, kids. I can do it. I did it. You can do it too. And I was like, oh my God, he's speaking to me. He's telling me to move to America. That team shucking its 20 years of self-sabotage and ridiculousness to become a swaggering, powerful, omnipotent team. To young me, that's like, my history is pathetic. I'm a loser. I too can rise up and just be like Jim McMahon and really be proactive in life. So each of these American things ultimately spoke to me and told me, and don't even get me started on Don Johnson and Miami Vice, but all of those things just like spoke to me and taught me important lessons about life that have ended up. I grew up, and I can show you a little photo in my book. I had the Statue of Liberty and the Manhattan skyline painted on one wall. It was a terrible painting. The Statue of Liberty, they forgot she had an arm, so they kind of just had to jam it in. But every night, I would arrange my curtains so the light cracked onto her face, so she was the last thing I saw. And to live there now, to live here now in that very crude representation of Manhattan as an adult and have a family, in all sincerity, it's a journey of a lifetime. To be an American is something I don't take for granted. And it's just not just an honor to be in your show, but an honor that America would have me.
What an odd passage to read.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
That's the whole book.
Yeah,
I just read the whole book.
Yes. What's great about America? Steve McMichael. Okay, very good, Roger. Thank you for being on with us. We appreciate the
Richard
time.
Dent.
Oh, mate, what? Don't not Richard Dent. You know, if I was in studio, Stugotz, you would not be mocking Richard Dent to my face. You understand? I would swagger into your studio with Matt Suey behind me, and we would cause havoc. Let me tell you, friendo.
Thank you for being on with us.
Gary
The
Fencing.
perfect punctuation right there.
One of the great investor hedge funds / defensive backs of all time.
We're not going to do better than Matsui. Let's just end on. You're not going to come up with a better name from that team than Matsui.
He's the Lou Longley of the Chicago Bears.
Thank you for being on with us, Roger. We
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me. We love what you're doing. Courage, guys.
Likewise.
Thank you, Roger.